and welcome at a video lecture on project-based learning prepared by Rapide and eDesk Erasmus Plus project, and my name is Blaženka Divjak. The details you can find here on this slide, so you can make a pause here and look at the step descriptions and also important questions to be asked. Let me just read a few very important advices you can find on this slide. First of all, in this preparation phase, when we prepare the learning design of project-based learning, it is really advisable to co-create it with students, and we should have in mind that this learning design should be aligned with the intended learning outcomes. And teacher also should decide if the project problem or project description is given to students, or students can pose the problem themselves. And then it is also important to know if the students are going to work in teams or individually. If in teams, do they know how to work in teams? And it is related to the second step. It is the assessment, discussion, and co-creation. Again, it can be done as a co-creation process with students. So in this phase, assessment criteria need to be discussed and also available to students before starting the project work. And this assessment criteria need to be aligned with the learning outcomes. Of course, during the monitoring phase of problem-based learning, the students really are working on project and problem solving. It's very important that teacher facilitate this process to maximize the educational impact for students, also to support the teamwork and provide, I hope you can do it, additional resources for students, including those in virtual learning environment. Finally, it is time to make assessment of the artifacts, or final assessment, and also feedback. Our recommendation is to use a rubric, so it means besides the criteria, also levels of achievement are those that help you as a teacher, but also to students if they are assessing their work or their peer work to make this assessment in a much more reliable way. Finally, students need to be asked to share their learning experience and what they think about the learning experience and competence development. And based on that, you as a teacher can make a further improvement as it is shown here in this cycle. And then we can start the next cycle next year or next semester with an improved learning design. Probably you noticed that I mentioned several times assessment in PBL because it is difficult. It involves a complex task related to high-level learning outcomes, then lengthy and mostly collaborative learning processes, and artifacts that need to some extent answer authentic real-world requirements. So using rubrics and also self-assessment, peer assessment needs really to be discussed and prepared in detail. And teachers should ask themselves what criteria need to be considered and aligned with the intended learning outcomes. It is a question of validity of assessment, then on what evidence should the grade be based, And of course, if the evidence are available, how we are going to collect the evidence. How should the contribution of each team member be weighted in the final grade? And finally, how to ensure reliability, how this reliability issue will be addressed. And then finally, challenging aspects of PBL, also dealing with negative aspects of collaborative learning. For example, social loafing, when insufficient performance by some team members can be noticed. And I know that you as a teacher already has this kind of experience. Then, of course, project-based learning is not equally suitable for all subjects and topics. So this validity of assessment needs to be addressed. Then assessment again, of complex tasks and learning processes is challenging. So using comprehensive assessment criteria and meaningful feedback, these are our advices for that. And finally, reliability of assessment, especially when self-assessment and peer assessment contribute to the final grade, need to be really analyzed and discussed in detail. Thank you for your participation.